A crosscut sled is one of the most useful accessories that you could build for your table saw, but eventually the blade sort of opens up the gap and you lose that zero clearance aspect. Or in my case, I got a new table saw and things were shifted just slightly, so it created a wide gap and I no longer have that zero clearance we need for tear-out-free cuts. So Joe Lipinski on our Wood Talk Patreon page wrote in and asked, what do you do about it? Is there a way to repair that or fix it? And he's tried putting little slivers of wood in there and gluing it in place, but it just kind of shatters as soon as the blade hits it. So here's what I do. First thing I do is use blue tape to seal the underside of the slot. I use my fingernail or even a piece of scrap to make sure that I've got a good seal. Now I bet some of you know exactly where I'm going with this. That's right, epoxy. I use West System epoxy, 105 resin, 205 hardener, and 404 filler. 1 scoop of filler, 2 squirts of resin, and a little mixy-mixy. 2 squirts of hardener, and some more mixing, and the epoxy's ready to pour. I carefully fill the slot with the epoxy and let it settle into place. I do my best to make sure that I don't get epoxy on the sled's surface, but in some spots it's unavoidable. Near the fence, I need to add some extra epoxy because I want to seep back into the area where I can't actually pour. Because the base of the sled can flex slightly, I clamp a caul in place to make sure that the two halves stay flush. Once the epoxy is dry, I remove the caul and start sanding. You have to be careful to balance the sander so that it doesn't cut into either side. Consider using a block plane or a scraper to level the epoxy out before sanding if you're not comfortable with this. Where the sander can't reach, I use a chisel to remove the excess. Obviously, it's a good idea to avoid driving your chisel directly into the aluminum face. Finally, I switch to a card scraper to do the final flattening. With the sled back on the saw and the tape removed from the underside, we can slowly raise the blade and recut the new slot. And then we do a quick test cut. Now, of course, there may be other ways to tackle this, but this is what works for me, and hopefully it'll work for you too. Now, before anyone asks, I get a lot of questions about this fence here. I've got a metal fence added to my original fence, and this is just an experiment. I'm not really doing anything specific with it. I just wanted to see how this aluminum extrusion type fence would work here, and I happen to have one sitting around that I wasn't using, so I sacrificed it, cut a slot in it, and use it as my fence. Ultimately, I do want to build a new sled that incorporates a metal fence so that I have nice T-tracks, I can put accessories on it, and I know that it's dead straight. So that'll be something we do in the future. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Catch you later.